Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Making It Monday. Comes around so quick. I think I say that every week, so I'm going to stop saying it from now on. But it really does. Just like when we've finished doing the video on a Monday night, and then we're preparing then for Friday to launch the new one, and it kind of all becomes a blur, and it's great fun. Don't get me wrong, I love it, and I love coming up with the ideas of what we can do. Keeping it, as you know, keeping it simple, keeping it useful, keeping it practical, and hopefully having an hour with you guys having a bit of fun. So good evening to everybody that's watching me already. We are live in YouTube, we're live in Facebook. I've given up on Twitter completely, but I think YouTube and Facebook is enough, don't you? And it's great to be with you again. It's really lovely, and I have to say, what a gorgeous day we've had today. It's been absolutely glorious, and I've been sitting out in the sunshine, and I think I caught a little bit of sunshine today. I feel a little bit flushed, but I think that is the sunshine rather than anything else. So we've had a good day on and off, doing bits and bobs, just getting ourselves ready for tonight, testing out new things that we wanted to do. Some things worked, some things didn't, but it's always great to be with you. And of course this week we've got the new pattern which was launched Friday, and I'm thinking, where did I put it? It's over here. So we're making Anna Maria. Oh, it's actually, I've got to get it right. Yes, it is Anna Maria. There's a reason why I'm saying getting it right, because it's, I don't know if you've looked at the back of the pattern, but there's a little story about where I got the name Anna Maria from. And it's quite a nice little story. And one or two of you have mentioned it to me to say how nice it was. Well, when I first thought we'll do a little mat, we'll do an off-centre log cabin that's not really a log cabin because it's a rectangle, I thought really it's for your teacup, isn't it? And you know that where's my lovely teacup there? I can't point. There is the lovely teacup that I got especially for this mat to go on. So yeah, and that pleased me to do that. And when I first did it, and I thought it's for a teacup or a coffee cup, whatever your tipple is. Then I thought, let's find out who invented, not tea, that would be silly, but who invented tea time, who invented that phrase. And it was the Duchess of Bedford, if I can remember that. I've got it written down, but if I can remember. Duchess of Bedford, Anna Marie, who invented the afternoon tea. And I thought, oh, that's a lovely name. So we'll keep it that. Why not? Why not? Doesn't matter, does it? So yeah, so that was just the little project. And obviously, you know, it's lovely and easy to do. That's the whole idea behind a Making It Monday pattern, that it's nice and simple. It's free to you for at least it is 5 days, not at least, it is 5 days. So you can enjoy it. You know, there's nothing more to say about it really. And then hopefully lots of other people will get to know about it and will join in, because this is kind of like my hour to give back to you for being my supporter, for some of you for years and years, and some of you maybe just today. But it's great to have you on board, however long you've been with me. Oh, I've got Deborah here, and she says it's the first time watching from Massachusetts. Well, welcome, Deborah, from I think you're from YouTube. Yeah, how fantastic. We've got so many people watching now, coming up. Both Facebook and YouTube is coming up to over 310 people watching, so I'm not going to name you all. If I see something quickly, I might say something. So yeah, so that's how Anna Maria was born, in as much that I wanted a little bit of patchworky, easy project, but also something that was practical, because you know what, you could make half a dozen of these and have these next to your armchair, maybe next to the sofa, maybe on the picnic bench outside, although you don't need to worry about drips, but they're just pretty, aren't they? Why not? And I've already made 2 actually. The one under the cup was another one that I made, and I'm actually going to do exactly the same material as I've done on the original one, because I thought I wanted to make a set, so I might end up making 4. which is fine. And then I can take them away in the motorhome, can't I? And do a bit of showing off. But the other thing is I've just used 80/20 wadding. That's my wadding of choice, batting wadding. It's my wadding of choice. So 80/20, 80% polyester, 20% cotton. But of course you can use whatever you like. You could also use like a thermal wadding as well if you want to make sure the heat doesn't transfer onto your best table. Goodness me, that would be dreadful. So so you could use thermal wadding. You could not put any wadding in at all, just use a stabilizer. I think it needs something. And it's like there's two ways of looking at it. It's either a stitch and flip, where you're stitching and flipping your fabrics over, or it's a quilt as you go, because although we're not quilting through 3 layers, we are quilting through the wadding, the batting. So call it what you like. Whatever the case is, we're going to make this tonight and it's going to be lovely. I can't wait. So hopefully you've downloaded your pattern today, or at least over the last 2 or 3 days. There we are. There's Anna Maria there. Great bit of set dressing there. I do try to make them look pretty so they look nice for you. And actually, while I remember, on the Making It Monday Facebook group, I've seen some of your Anna Marias made using teacups just the same as me as your photo to show in the group. Oh my word, you've no idea how that makes me happy, that you've emulated the whole thing, because I think it really works. Obviously that's like a set dress, you're not going to have it like that all the time, but just for a photo to show off to your friends and family, look what I've made. Dress it up a little bit, have it so the background is fairly plain or neutral, but have your little mat or whatever you've made. It could be Peggy, it could be Poppy, any of those makes. Just have that as the focus, 1 or 2 little chosen things beside it. Keep it fairly neutral and try to match those colours. So for instance, with could have been Peggy, well anyway, one of them It's 23 now. How can I remember? I chose buttons that matched the fabric. Actually, it was the purse, wasn't it? It was the pouch, the easy peasy pouch, I'm pretty sure. And I matched the buttons and the thread to match the fabric. It doesn't take a minute to do, but it makes a real difference to your photograph. So it's just a little tip from me to you. Just have a little play and enjoy it. Enjoy it. So yeah, that's what we're going to do, and my lovely turtle or tortoise is there to show off as well. So there we are. So we're going to make Anna Maria, so I better get on, otherwise you'll tell me off. So the pieces of wadding and the backing are much bigger than, well, not much bigger, but they are bigger than the actual mat. That's deliberate, because then we can put our pieces on and we can neaten it, we can cut it down. Far better that than have exact measurements and you go off quilter somewhere and then it's such a disappointment when you got to those last 2 or 3 rounds. So that's the idea, that they're bigger, so it gives you more scope to get your mat nicely positioned with your wadding, batting and your backing as well. So that's the idea behind it. So let's have a look. We've got Kath from Toronto here as well, so that's lovely. Yeah, I love Toronto. I've seen it from a distance. I haven't been there, but it is a lovely place. So we have people from all over the world watching. Sometimes we have people from Australia and it's 4 o'clock in the morning there, so well done you guys, because I couldn't do it. Right, we've got 2 different camera angles today. So we've got this one here, and I shall join you from time to time to have a chat. We've got the side view so you can see what I'm doing, and hopefully, if it works, we have a camera on the needle as well on the bed of the machine anyway, so you've got a close-up and personal view. Hopefully it's going to work. So what I'll do is I'll transfer you over to the side camera. So let's do that now. There we go. So you can still see me at the front. There we are. I'm waving there. So you can keep an eye on me. Make sure I don't scratch my head or, you know, whatever those things are. So the first thing we're going to do is actually we're going to find the middle. Now, when you actually finish this, I want to show you the finished one. You'll notice that the middle is kind of off center here. It's kind of there, or I suppose that's your centerpiece that you're going to lay first of all. It's always interesting because you get the first two pieces of the same size, so you can say that's your first one or that's your first one, I don't mind, but we're going to lay that one down first. So the center of that is about here, and it ends up being the whole thing off center, which is intentional, because if you have a look this side, you've got kind of like two rounds going on. Yeah, two rounds here, and here we've got, well, we've got 3 and 2, but mainly we've got those 3, and I wanted it to be like that. I wanted it to be off center. I didn't want it to be like a typical log cabin, although obviously we're using a rectangle, which isn't typical. So the first thing you're going to do is find your center. So it's a few bits, little stray bits there. So you're going to fold your wadding. I'm going to say wadding rather than keep saying wadding batting, even though we've got our American ladies watching. I'll just keep saying wadding, and I'm just going to put a mark there as roughly where I think the middle is. I mean, if you want, measure it, but then what I'm going to do is fold it again. So we're going to get the sort of center part, if we can get this wadding to sit nicely. There we go. And my little mark was about 1/4 inch out, so the actual center is about here. To be honest, it's not an exact science, it's just roughly where your center is. Okay, so if you want to measure it, you just about see my marks there. If you want to measure it, but it's not crucial. Like I said, your wadding is a little bit bigger than your actual mat should end up. So we know that we're going to start off with the first piece. Now in the instructions, I say it's a bit of an odd measurement really, and I tell you the reason why. Because when I went to make the first one, I just cut a bit, and then I thought, oh gosh, I've got to give you the measurement, so it's a bit quirky. So it's 2 3/4 inches, or it's about 7 centimeters. So let's just make sure we've got that as 2 3/4. Yeah, so that's 2 3/4, and all the strips are 1.5 inches wide. Okay, so keep to that. So I'm just going to pop that right on the center of there as best I can, and try and keep it straight, because if you go off at an angle, you might end up with your mat like that. So try and keep it parallel to that top edge there as best you can. And then you're going to take the first piece. Now I'm going to follow my mat. Okay, I'm going to follow this. So my next piece is this one here, and it turns out it's exactly the same size as your first bit, and you just lay them on top. Now here we go. This could be controversial, or it might not be. So you could, if you wanted to, you could make a little crease there, or get your pen and you could mark that 2 3/4 inches, measure it, or you could just machine down until you think you've come to the end, which is what I'll do. And you can carry on doing that, or I might just trim to size. Okay, but every time we do a round, you're going to ignore the ends of your pieces, and I'll talk to you about this as we go along, because this is accurate. These edges are accurate. These may not be, okay, because you're going to perhaps cut by hand. So it's just a little thought. So I'm going to pop this under the machine so you can see what that looks like. And what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try to be really clever here. Let me just move my machine a little bit and bring you over to the second view. Look at this. Oh, gosh, I love a bit of technology. So fortunately, I've covered all my junk up with my little quilt there. It's that one there. You can't see my junk. I noticed before there's a lot of junk. So I'm going to, you can see this is the 2 pieces that I laid down. So I'm going to stitch now 1/4 inch from this top end right down to here. Now this is as close as I can get, unless I bring my computer right up, which I don't want to do. So I'll move it from time to time. We'll see a different angle. So 1/4 inch. Now if you want to, let me just go back to that side camera again, because if you wanted to, you could actually draw that 1/4 inch in. Okay, so if I flip this around, it depends how confident you are, doesn't it? Some people are confident and some people aren't, and it matters not. So if you want to, you could get your pen and you could just draw yourself a 1/4 inch line, but don't stitch out on the line, don't stitch this side of the line, stitch that side of the line. Okay, so like a scant 1/4 inch, if that's what you want to do. So what we'll do now is just start to go round the actual mat itself. So let me just take you back to that needle view again. And as we go through, we'll just, like I said, from time to time, we'll come up for air and we will go from different angles. Now, you don't have to do a locking stitch. I kind of do it just out of habit, but you don't, because all of these seams are going to be caught in to the next seam along. And what we're going to do now is just cut along here. So let me just get my scissors, and I'm just going to follow the line of my fabric, okay? And I'm not too worried if it's exact or not, but I tell you what I do want to do. I want to give each piece a little iron, because that really makes a difference. If I can find my little mat. So each time you do a seam, like this one here, okay, this one here, you're going to iron that open so it's beautiful, so it lies flat, and it grabs the wadding anyway. It likes to sit on top of the wadding. It's kind of very comfy there. So it'll stay really nice. So there we are. So that's pressed that open. So what we're going to do is this part here, which is this little spotty fabric. So let me get that little scrappy piece I had. I have no idea with this fabric whether it's right side or wrong side. I think it's like that. So I'm going to line up the one side. So let me show you. I'm going to line up here. So don't forget what I said to you, that these lines are absolutely accurate. These are not, okay, because we might have cut by hand. So when you stitch, I want you to be very mindful. This one doesn't count as it happens, but I want to be very mindful that you're following the edges of your fabric, not the ends, okay? With this first couple of rounds, it's kind of like sod's law. It's going to be different, isn't it? So I'm just going to make sure that it's lined up as best I can. And I'm actually lining it up with my first piece rather than my second piece, because I know I cut that beautifully. So there we are. You can see what that looks like, and all I'm going to do is trim that away. And again, we're going to iron every single seam. As boring as you think that might be, I would really love it if you did that. So just flip it back and give it an iron. And I have to say, I think this fabric is polycotton, and it shrivels every time I get an iron near it. Okay, so that's our second bit there. Okay, so now we're going to do this bit here. So we're growing it already. Now, if you remember what I said to you, I wonder if that's going to be big enough. Yeah. I said to you to not follow this line. And you'll see mine is a bit wriggly, and I tell you why, because it's just caught the iron. It's polycotton, so it's a little bit hot. So I will follow this line here, this edge here, which is absolutely perfect. So again, I'm going to line my fabric over the top. I'm going to get this end really nice and straight, because I know that this line here is perfect, and then I'm going to stitch from there to there. And if you want to, trim it away. So let's just do that. Let's just go mad and crazy and do that. So line it up and just snip, and be brave. If you kind of wriggle and it's not quite right, as long as you've covered the fabric less than 1/4 inch, you'll be fine, okay, because that'll be part of the seam allowance. So once again, we'll pop it under the needle. I'm using my first ever piece that I placed on there to make sure that that is sitting beautifully, and then we're just going to stitch all the way along. Do you know what? I think I need a new needle. It's clunking. So so just take your iron and fold it back. Give it a nice little crease. Every time you do a seam, then just press it out. Really, really press it out. It really does make a difference, I have to say. So the next one is this gorgeous little flowery fabric, which you can't see, but I just pointed to that one here. And I'm going to, let's see, because I need some, I've got such scrappy pieces, which is the whole idea. So again, I'm going to line it up. So I want you to look, I'm lining it up only with that bit. That bit I know is 100% accurate because I cut this piece. It's my first piece. I use my ruler and my rotary cutter and I know that's perfect. These two end ones, this one and this one, are not perfect, you can see. But I'm not going to use them as my guide. I'm only using that as my guide, okay? And I'm just going to line my fabric so it's absolutely parallel to that line there. I'm ignoring those ends, not interested in those ends. So again, we're just going to lay it over the top, take it to the needle, 1/4 inch seam allowance, make sure you're on the end of that first piece. I don't want you to worry about the other pieces at all. And just come up as far as you feel. You know what, you've got a 1/4 inch seam allowance with this, so even if you stop stitching just shy of your 1/4 inch at the end, I mean, then it will be fine. So that's my piece I've just stitched, so I'm going to iron that back. So let's get it so you can see it, and just keep pressing it back and make sure that all of your fabric is folded over beautifully. It doesn't need to be a steam press, just a dry iron is all you need. So the next one is across the top. So all the time we're working around, think of a snail, So we started there, we went to there, we're coming around here and we're going here. So this is the next piece here, okay? And that one is this little piece of fabric here. So again, let's pop it under the needle, and again let me just show you, because this is really important. These two ends here and here have been hand cut, okay? So I'm not going to use them as my guide. I'm using this edge here as my guide, so my fabric will sit on top of that edge only. I don't care about this and I don't care about that, but that I know is 100% accurate because that's what I cut. I cut my 1.5 inch strips. So I line the fabric up along that line only, okay? I'm not worried about the two ends at all. And it's easier when you've got smaller lengths of fabric, or sorry, smaller widths of fabric. When you use larger pieces of fabric, it's not obviously not so clear as to follow that. So there's, I'm going to have to start moving my mat. There we go. So you can see I've just stitched that one on. So we're just going to flip it back. So once you start making these, it won't take too long at all to start, to whip them together. It really won't. So the next one is this gorgeous little fabric here. So if you have a look at this for reference, I'm sort of in the way, aren't I? There. Let's prop it up there. It's not too bad. You can still just about see everything. So we're going to pop it on this edge here. You can see how that's working. So that lovely little fabric is going to go there. So let's pop that down. So again, I'm using the edge of the 1.5 inch strip, not the ends, to follow. I sound like a broken record, but I know that if I don't repeat it, I only say it once, you'll miss it and you'll think, let's get that out of the way, and you'll miss it and you'll think, oh, why has she done this and why has she done that? But if I keep repeating it, then you'll know, you'll get to know. So that's that little piece done, and again we'll just flip it and give it a lovely iron. And I always do this. Do you do that when you've pressed something with a dry or steam? I tend to tap it, and I must get one of those wooden thingamajigs. I need to look at my mat now. What are they called? Where they it's like a clapper thing, isn't it? I don't know what the term is. I just have to make sure I'm getting the fabric in the right place. So now we're going to do this part here. Whatever's it called? Somebody tell me. It's a wooden block that you use when you've ironed or certainly pressed with steam, and the wooden block puts the heat back into the fabric. There's a name for it. Somebody will tell me and then I'll say, oh yeah, that's the one. So let's just pop that one over. And I'm going to see the thingamajig. Yes, is it a clapper? Oh, it is a clapper. I've got lots of people telling me it's a clapper. Great, that's what I need. I haven't got one. I'll have to ask my John to make me one. Do you think it's the same sort of thing? Right, so the last one on this side is this little piece here. Let me bring it back so you can see. So this sort of spotty fabric that I've no idea what the right side or the wrong side is. So we're getting there. Is that right? I'm just going to check myself. Yes, that is right. Yeah, pretty sure it is. Who knows? I'm talking too much, so then I can't remember what I'm supposed to have done, what I'm supposed to have said. No, that isn't that bit. Or have I used the wrong fabric? No, that's right. Oh gosh, let me do it so it's that way. So that's that bit. Yes, I'm right. I think I've gone off around somewhere, because now I've got to skip over here, so I don't know why I've done that. Oh well, I'll look back and I think, well yeah, of course you didn't do that, you silly person. I think I went one way and then I came back on myself. That's because I was not concentrating. So my last one is here, and it shouldn't be. It should come naturally round in the round, but hey ho, it doesn't matter as long as we get there in the end. So this one is going to just go slightly off my wadding, which is fine. And again, if we need to add a piece of wadding to that, I'll show you how. I'll have to reach into my drawer and show you how, because it's quite interesting. So I wonder what I did. I must have gone back on myself on one round. Don't matter. I don't mind. I know you don't mind. So let's just flip that one over. And actually that's not too bad, so you can see how it's ended up just slightly scooting off the side there. So, but I suppose it depends on how you do it, and because we've got more wadding this side, but anyway, you can work it out. If you need to add some wadding, which is not too bad, I reckon I'm going to catch that quite well in the seam allowance. I think you can see that. I'm happy with that. I think I can pass that. I'm going to just check and make sure it's the same as the other one. It is. So, well, yeah, it is identical. That's good. Let's turn my iron off for a moment. Right, so now we need to square up. So what I'll do is I'll go back to the other angle, because that's a little bit better for a little bit more sort of detailed stuff. So, and don't forget, if all those scraps that you still have, then keep them, because you can make another one if you've got enough. That'd be absolutely glorious. So we've actually gone all the way around. Whoops, forgot what camera I'm on. So let's do it like that. If we have a look at the original one, you can see how it looks. So we're getting there. Looks absolutely beautiful, doesn't it? I love the tones of pink, but actually whatever tones you use, it's going to be gorgeous. Or you could go completely crazy and use, I don't know, all Kaif facet fabrics or something. So now we're going to square it up. So look, again, I'm going to just mention this yet again. These edges are perfect. Sorry, these edges are perfect. That one, this one, and this one. These are perfect. The ends are not, because you hand cut those, okay? So you need to use your ruler to and lay it on this line here. The same with that. That's your line, not the ends. And you're allowed in patchwork to go over, and then we trim back, and then you square up. That's what you do. So with my little tiny ruler, let's just make sure I've got it lined up. It's amazing the difference it makes once you do square it up. And don't ever be afraid to cut it back a bit if you need to. For instance, because I knew this fabric moves, can you see that little slither that I've taken off? Even though that was the perfect 1.5 inch strip, because this is polyester fabric, it's moved it. It's kind of stretches it, I suppose. So you mustn't worry about that, but where you can, use those straight lines that you've cut, not the ends that you trimmed. So I think I've said that enough times now, haven't I? So there's our piece, all beautifully trimmed, and look at the difference that it makes once it's squared up. It's so neat. And really, I want you to be very, very careful of how much you cut back, because all of these seams, the width of these seams around here, should be exactly the same as these. And I'm laughing because more often than not, there won't be. But if we look at the original, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. You don't have to aim for perfection. You just got to aim, and fingers crossed you get there. So what we've got now is our lovely little mat. You can see that it's been quilted, so we kind of could call it Quilt As You Go, but it's called Flip and Stitch as well. You can call it what you like. We've got our backing fabric here as well. Now this is double faced, is it? Right side is the same as the wrong side. It has no right side or wrong side. And somebody said to me the other day, well, it would be really handy if you used fabric that did have a right side or a wrong side. And I thought, well, I think I'll just use what I like, actually. So this is going to be your right side, right side, right side, right side, right side. Right sides together. I think we got that. Now again, your backing will be a little bit bigger than your mat, your little, I called it a little top the other day, and I suppose it is. It's a little mini quilt top. Perhaps it's a little mini quilt top for a doll, maybe. I don't know. But I still think we should call it a little top. And I'm now, because I'm using gingham fabric, that was a good idea, wasn't it? I'm just trying to make sure that it's fairly square. To be honest, it's not, and I'm going to put some pins in. Now in the picture, I was just going to have a quick look, just to make sure that we're okay with this. In the picture, I've pinned it and then I've cut it and then I've stitched it, so that's what we'll do. But because I'm using pins, in fact we're going to do it so the heads will stick out in a minute. Because I'm using pins, I'm not going to use my rotary cutter, even though I'm using the flat-headed pins. Oh, here's the dog. Hello Millie, you been for a walk? Hello Millie. You won't want to see the ladies and gents, no. She just always has to come and say hello. So put your pin heads in like that, and we're going to move them in a minute. Okay, but it's right sides together. So just pretend that even though my fabric doesn't have a right side or a wrong side, this is the wrong side, this is the wrong side. Are we all happy with that? Can't make it any clearer than that, surely. So I'm just going to cut this with my scissors. To be honest, you could actually stitch and then cut. There's no rules. You can cut it now, you can cut it later, you don't have to cut it at all. You decide. Okay, but what I've made sure is that the wadding and the lining are a little bit bigger than your project, which gives you a little bit of wriggle room. You know what? It depends on your seam allowances and whether you've done a true 1/4 inch or whether you've done a scant 1/4 inch or a generous 1/4 inch. Everything is catered for. So there we are. So there's your 2 layers. So right sides together. Now that's you and I, we are only going to stitch 3 sides. We're going to stitch from here to there, to there, to there. And we're going to leave all of that side open because, no Audrey, there are no quilting police. Actually, there's no stitching police. Not in my workroom anyway. I tell them to clear off. Off you go. Find another little person to aggravate. So I'm going to leave this all open here. You may want to just leave a small turning gap, but I find I get better corners and a better finish when I leave the whole of the end open. All right, so we're going to do 3 sides. 1, 2, 3. So again, 1/4 inch seam allowance, and what I'll do is I'll bring this in so you can just about see what I'm up to. And I'm just going to move that pin. I'm just going to do a little back stitch because we're going to put pressure on this area here when we turn through. Let's get the pin cushion in. Hold it nice and straight. Use more pins if you need to, or quilters clips, don't mind which. Let's just pull that head out. And I want you to follow your wadding line, not necessarily your backing line, especially because I cut it by hand. Now, because I was just shy of wadding, I'm just going to make sure that I do get that 1/4 inch there, which I'm fairly happy, says she, moving it again. And it's caught that wadding beautifully. So there was no need to panic or worry about it. But there is a way of joining wadding. You could zigzag a little couple of pieces together, or I've got some rather super tape that's made especially for putting wadding together. So again, hold all your pieces, keep it nice and firm. And let's take that pin out now. Come right up to the top. I think you can see okay, can't you? Little back stitch because we're going to put pressure on that. And we're going to just snip the corners. So in the instructions, it tells you to snip the corners. It also tells you to snip the corner where the turning gap is. So that's what we're going to do next. So these are the corners that go, you know, the 2 corners that we've stitched all the way around. And if you wanted to, you could take more wadding away if you wanted to. And then here I'm just going to snip away and snip away. Okay, so let's just take those little bits out of the way. So you can see from the back, see how that just caught that little piece of wadding there. So we're just cool with a 1/4 inch there. So we've snipped that, we've snipped up there, we've snipped this corner, and we've snipped that corner. And it really does take away that bulk that you'll have from all the wadding and everything. But it depends on your fabrics, doesn't it, really? So just turn it through. And these are such lovely little projects for, you know, an afternoon, little bit of stitching if you fancy. You got sort of an hour on your hands that you wouldn't mind doing a little bit of stitching but just don't know what to do. All of the Making It Mondays are perfect for that. All of them, because they really don't take long. Well, you know, I stitch them in an hour with you, so you know that they're a nice quick make. So I want you to have a quick look at what I did there. So I turned it through. I've used my little magic wand to point out the corners there, and if you wanted to, you could really be really pedantic and try a little bit better. I'm not pedantic, that's perfectly fine for me. The other thing I did was I put my turning tool inside and I pushed out this seam with the tool. I'm pushing it out. Can you see it running along? And as I do that, I use the heat of my hands just to finger press that. And that'll save you getting a wavy edge. You could end up with a rectangle that goes in here where your seams haven't been pushed out enough, or here it would come in a little bit here. You don't want that. So a good way is to pop your tool in there. Can you see it's pushing? Can you see that movement there? So it's pushing against the seam, and as it's pushing, it's opening that seam up, and with the heat of my hand, I'm just making sure that it stays exactly there. So that's that little bit done. So now what I want to do, here we go, is get my little mat, my little pressing mat, and give that an iron. And you can do it now, you can do it later, but I do tend to like to have a look at it and think, Oh, that looks lovely. And you please admire your own work and tell yourselves how clever you are. Because sometimes people don't do that, do they? And you are very clever, all of you. So we need to turn this end here, and as you know, the whole of that end is open. And I'm happy if you want to top stitch the whole lot. So turn this under 1/4 inch and do top stitch all the way around to catch it. You don't have to hand stitch it. It's not something you have to do. It's not compulsory. But what we do need to do is to turn that under. Now, what I want you to do is to, first of all, you could cut some of this wadding away if you want. I'm not going to bother. I want you to hold your seam open so you can see you've got, there's the gingham, there's the wadding. Hold your seam open and get that first end beautiful. Okay, you want that just 1/4 inch as best as you can. Sometimes I know it's fiddly, and I'm sorry this is away from what you can see at the minute. And then press that little end so you know that end is absolutely perfect. Okay, so don't worry about where the seams are going. If you want to push it that way, you can. So just make sure that you've press that end. You're going to do the same with this end. So you just, and this is why you need to back tack here, because we're going to put a bit of pressure on that. I'm going to put my thumbnail in there and I'm going to push that over 1/4 inch and pull it tight. Okay, pull it tight and then get my iron on it. I don't care about the rest of it at the moment. I just want that bit to look absolutely gorgeous. So there we are. So that's lovely and pressed. You can see that. I get that out of the way. You can see that. Okay. So what we're going to do then is get your hand, one finger and your thumb here, one finger and your thumb, or whatever you can manage, and just pull those seams apart. So you've got your finger and your thumb on both ends and just pull those seams apart like that. And as you pull it apart, it will automatically give you 1/4 inch. And if we turn that, you'll see that it's there and thereabouts 1/4 inch. Because we've pulled it tight, that's the only place for it to go. You can see that my gingham is a little bit off. It's not ideal to use gingham. Whose idea was that? So while it's like that, I'm going to give it a press. And even though we've got wadding, oh, that's not a very good press, but anyway, even though we've got wadding on this other side, you're going to do exactly the same. Let's just straighten that up a little bit. And if you wanted to, you could join those two layers together, because we haven't used any spray, have we? You could join those two layers together with quilter's tape if you want, just to make sure that that wadding doesn't wriggle. But it's, you know, it's only a little mat. So fold that over 1/4 inch, just like you did before, by pulling out those edges of the seams there, the side seams. Just pull them, straighten it up. I'm pulling so that all tucks in, and then just fold it over like that. Don't worry about if that other end goes a bit crazy. Let's just get this. You know, I call it iron memory. It's a bit like muscle memory, except it's with your iron. So I'm going to leave it with the iron like that. You can see that that end's not perfect, but it will be. If you just bear with me a second, I just want to change something on here. That's it, we're okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just now going to straighten that up, but I'll only straighten that up when I start to stitch. And the stitch we're going to do is just a slip stitch. Now you could do a ladder stitch if you want. I'm just finding my needle. You could do a ladder stitch if you want. Okay, there's no rules that you have to do. I'm going to go to the front while I thread my needle, because I know what's going to happen. I'm going to thread my needle. It's going to take ages. So rather than bore you, probably work first time now. I have got a needle threader in Nelly, but she's back there. Yeah. So yes, you could do a ladder stitch if you're there. Thread it straight away. If you're confident with the ladder stitch, I've shown you already how to do that. Did we do that last week? Or no, a week before? We did it with Nelly, didn't we? Whenever we did Nelly. It wasn't last week, was it? I can't remember. Hopeless. So yes, you can do a ladder stitch, but because this is just a little mat, we're going to just do a slip stitch. All right, so I'm going to get my needle in and then I'll show you how we do a slip stitch. It's probably the easiest, and probably if you're new to stitching, a slip stitch is so easy. Now always go, I'm going to turn to the side so you can see this, if I can do this properly. Let me twiddle myself around. So you'll see at the front now that I'm twiddled. Always when you start stitching, put your knot into your fold. So can you see where my needle is here, and it's coming out at the top here, and on the end of that needle is obviously the thread and a knot. So you don't want that knot on the outside of your work. Oh, excuse me, let's just get a proper knot in here. You do not want the knot showing. Okay, let's try that again. Let's do a second take on that. It doesn't matter which end we start with. Let's do this end. So knot. Oh, sorry, you couldn't see a thing. That knot has gone in my fold there. It doesn't matter which end we start, by the way, whichever's comfortable for you. So you can't see anything except my thread coming out now. And you're just going to put your fingernail where the seam is. So can you see where my seam is there? And I'm just going to fold that over so I get a point. Doesn't matter about the rest of it, but you want that first bit to be really super duper. Now can you see that? That's not bad. So then we're going to start stitching. So little stitches. I may not do all of this because it's a bit boring. So you're just going to, and make sure that stays nice. Keep an eye on it and just square it up, and you're just going in along 1/8 of an inch and come out the other side. So you're going over to your main fabric, let's say the patchwork part, and you're just coming out the other side on the gingham. And that's a slip stitch, and that's perfectly acceptable for a little project like this. So you're over the other side. You're putting the needle in the fold of the fabric, guys. Okay, that stitch should not show on the outside of your fabric. It's always in the fold of your fabric. Okay, so I've come through onto the gingham side. I'm going into the other side. It's not a ladder stitch, but then I'm following the fold along. Let's just turn again so you can see maybe. So I've got it, my thread is on the gingham side. I'm hopping over to the patchwork side. I'm doing a little I'm taking my thread through the fold of the outside fabric. So again, about 1/8 of an inch. You want little stitches. And you're just, oh, in fact, let's just try and get it so it catches the fabric. And so we're coming along and catching the gingham. Okay, do that again. Just keep an eye on those 1/4 inches. You've pressed them, so they should be fine. So along your fold and up through your gingham. And that is your slip stitch, and you can see that it's made a really nice neat edge. And when you look at the front, there shouldn't be any stitches showing. That should be just gorgeous. So there we are. So that I'm not going to finish it. It's a little bit of hand stitching which I'll do afterwards, and then I'll post a picture on the Facebook group page, so the Making It Monday Facebook page. So let's go back to the front. So now I've got 3. So I've got one over here under my beautiful cup and saucer. Isn't it sweet? And then I've got the second one, and then I've got the one that we've just made. And you can see they're identical. In as much that we've used the same fabrics. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Maybe you should make one that's so outlandishly bright and fantastic. Use oranges, pinks, reds, yellows. Throw in a green there, maybe a blue. You've got 10 rounds to do, so you've got plenty of fabrics to choose from, plenty of colours. And make one so zingy that it'll bring you joy when you drink your cup of tea or coffee. So that is Making It Monday for this week. So don't forget, everybody, the Making It Mondays, they launch on a Friday lunchtime, usually around midday, sometimes a little bit before, sometimes a little bit afterwards. It really does depend, because on a Friday it's fish and chip day here in the sort of Lizzy Towers workshop. So we always have fish and chips on a Friday, so it does depend when we go to get them as to whether you get it before or afterwards. But so far I think it's always been before. But it's there for you until the next Friday, of course. But you know that the offer that you get for this finishes at midnight tomorrow. And if you're thinking, well, I don't know what you're talking about, I don't know what the pattern is, why we're doing it, I don't know what number we're on, how many have you done, are there other ones to collect, is there a special code that I need to know about, what is it all about? Well, if you go to the Making It Monday ! Group, so it's Making It Monday group, you will find all the information that you need. Okay, that is the supporters page. We've got over 2,000 people on there now, which ain't bad for something that's about 8 weeks old. So we've got at least 2,000, well, more than 2,000 people on there now. So there is a couple of statements on there from my fabulous, gorgeous ladies who are my admin team, who have and do take huge amounts of trouble to help you out, answering your queries and questions, pointing you in the right direction. But the main thing is, go to the announcements, because that's where everything is. So if you're not sure, go onto Facebook, look at the Making It Monday group, look in the announcements, everything is there. The alternative thing is that you could actually, I'm just moving my mouse so I can change you over in a minute. There we go. The other thing you can do is to go to my website, which is lizzycurtis.com. You go to the shop, you click that, and you get a download. Now, my top tip is make sure that the shop banner is at the top of your page. And when you click it, doesn't necessarily work like this with a phone. I'm talking about a device. When you click it, the MIM patterns are at the top and they're very clear. So if you can't see them, just move that shop button up to the top of your page, click it, and it'll say MIM patterns. Click that and it takes you into the MIM pattern shop. And there is a statement as clear can be. Just take 2 minutes of your time to read that statement at the top of the page, because that explains everything as well. So really, you can't go wrong. You really can't go wrong. It's such a great thing and I'm loving every second of it. So next Monday, on Making It Monday, slightly different because we're relaunching a pattern. It doesn't have the special promotion code on it yet. It won't have until midday on Friday, because some people have already bought it. It's already in there. It's already in the MIM patterns. But because it's a relaunch, we've completely, or Kath, my lovely proofreader, has completely rewritten it for me and made it into a proper little MIM pattern that you would recognise. And that's there, but it won't be on the special code until Friday, and then we will make that on Monday. And I'm quite looking forward to that, because that was one of the first ones we did, and that was possibly November time. So we need to sort of revisit it and make sure that everybody is up to speed with that particular one. We won't repeat any of the others, it's just that one. Then there's a special reason why. And then the following week, of course, we've already got that pattern in the bag. We know exactly what we're doing. It's absolutely beautiful. You're going to love it. And I know that I'm going to see loads of them. So look forward to that. And then we're kind of catching up with ourselves. So I need to get ahead then. I need to get you more patterns in the bag so we can keep them going. I hope you're enjoying the Making It Mondays. I know I am. I know that Kath is as well. She works very closely with me to get them right. And if there's something in particular, by the way, if there's something in particular that you would like to see as a very simplified, easy, straightforward little pattern, then let me know. And I'll certainly credit it with you. I'll certainly put your name on there. In fact, there was a lady the other day who suggested something, and I took a screenshot of the conversation we had on Messenger, because I want to use that idea, but obviously she will get the credit for it. It's really important we do that. Never claim anything as yours unless it is. So there we are. So that's another Making It Monday. Gosh, doesn't it go quick? And we've had a record amount of viewers. I think we're well over 450 on YouTube and Facebook, and that's wonderful. Thank you so much. So I'm going to leave you now. I'm going to go and see John. I think the football starts at 8. So maybe I'll stay up here for a bit and let him watch the football, because it starts in 5 minutes. Egg cozies, Hazel. Oh, that's a good idea. Little chicken ones. That would be nice. Oh, ooh, I better start drawing. Right. It's been lovely to see you all again. I'm going to go downstairs now and see my John, see what he's been up to. I think he's took the dog for a walk, and now he's going to be watching football. So great. I'm going to have a little glass of sherry, and I will get this video tutorial onto the MIM video tutorials on the website as well. If you go in the MIM video tutorials, all of them are there, bar I think 2, which I need to sort out. So don't forget, you can rewatch it on YouTube, you can rewatch it on Facebook, you can also rewatch it on the website as well. Everything that you need is on the website. So I love you and leave you, and I will see you all again next Monday.